Thank you, Sophie. On Spotlight tonight, could 25 years of funding for Cornwall be about to end? After years of support for its underperforming economy, all eyes will be on next week's budget, with businesses particularly concerned. We'll be crossing live to Westminster in a moment. Also in tonight's programme.
The wind was in my face, I could feel the rain on my skin, and that was the steps of, positivity for me.
While he's running to recovery, the former drug addict who tells us it is possible to turn your life around. The Devon actor drawing on personal experience to play a Coronation Street villain, Emrys Cooper, will be joining me live in the studio. And why one of nature's most beautiful transitions could be even more spectacular this year. Welcome to the programme. It's now just 1 week until the budget, when the government will answer questions about our lives and families and finances, which have been up in the air since Labour won its landslide victory on July the 4th. So many of the issues facing the region hinge on what the Chancellor announces in her speech next Wednesday. Well, to chat through some of the key issues we're facing, our political editor Martin Oates joins us from Westminster tonight. Martin.
Well, the budget is, of course, always a big event in the political calendar, but this one feels particularly big. I've seen a lot of them come and go, and that is because, as you say, so much of the new government's programme seems to hinge on what Rachel Reeves says in a week's time. Well, I spent Monday in Penzance talking to some business people there about their hopes and fears ahead of the big day.
So the entrance is obviously sealed, or partially sealed.
Yeah, so each of those pumps discharges around 250 litres a second, and we've got 5 of them.
Europe's oldest dry dock here in Penzance has seen some ups and downs during its 200-year history. Now it's definitely on the up, with ambitious plans to expand and build ships for the first time ever. Owner Jamie Murphy says a £2 million award from the Shared Prosperity Fund, the domestic replacement for Cornwall's pre-Brexit EU funding, has been essential to making it happen.
High street banks simply do not support the sector. The Shared Prosperity Fund was absolutely key because, in a post-Brexit Cornwall, that there wasn't any major funding available for projects like this.
But the Shared Prosperity Fund is due to end in less than 6 months' time.
Without the Shared Prosperity Funds, not only us, but there'll be multiple other companies that aren't able to capitalise on that opportunity and won't be able to expand.
This is one of 142 projects across Cornwall to have benefited from a total of £137 million of shared prosperity funding. If the present government chooses not to continue with it in some way, shape or form, it'll be the first time in a quarter of a century that Cornwall hasn't received substantial, specific financial assistance. Penzance's iconic Market House was bought and restored for the town by another Conservative-era funding pot, the Towns Fund. Now, whether that will be replicated also remains to be seen. We do know this budget will be painful because the Prime Minister's told us so, and probably nobody's wincing more in anticipation than the small businesses who make up the backbone of the region's economy.
It's so hard. There's, energy costs are through the roof. For my business, milk costs, cheese costs, butter keeps going up and up and up. And my worry is that small businesses get hit again, and my plea is please don't target small businesses, because actually then you haven't got a world that keeps going round, and you need to keep England going round.
Well, hopefully it won't finish us off, because we've been here a long time, 160 years or thereabouts. I'd like to continue business for a lot longer.
So if you were to take a brief wish list to the Chancellor, what would it be?
Cheaper utility bills, more realistic business rate charges, and stop talking the economy down. It's not as bad as they say it is.
Budgets come and go with the regularity of the tides. What's in them, of course, is entirely less predictable. There may be something on childcare, there may be something on farming, perhaps on housing, or indeed an update on those paused hospital rebuilds in Truro, in Plymouth, in Torbay, in Barnstable, in Taunton, or indeed on hope for rail improvements. One thing is certain though, decisions which will affect the lives of everybody here will all be taken 300 miles away up this railway line.
Martin, clearly real concerns there from businesses and quite a long wish list as well. What are you hearing in Westminster?
Well, there's anxiety here as well, and one MP said to me today it's felt like a very long wait, with which I entirely sympathise. Now, politicians are often justly, in some cases, accused of not answering questions. I think for the past few months, to be fair, Labour MPs have been able to say the justification they don't know the answer to a particular question because it hinges on what's said in the budget. But of course, they won't have that excuse much longer.
And also today, another issue, second homes and holiday homes again.
That's right. Perrin Moon, the Campbell and Redruth MP, taking part in that debate, said there's no higher priority in the region than dealing with second homes and holiday lets. Of course, the present government's inherited measures to deal with that from the last one, the ability to levy double council tax on second homes, a registration scheme for holiday lets. But Andrew George, the Lib Dem MP for St Ives, like the Lib Dems generally, wants the government to go further, maybe an even higher premium in terms of council tax, drawing second homes into that registration scheme as well. And he's hoping that when the present business rate relief for holiday lets expires in April, the Chancellor in the budget chooses not to extend or renew it.
I'd be interested to know whether the Minister to be clear about what the government's plans are for the future. No doubt there are pressures from that sector to reintroduce a similar rate relief. And although I don't think that, for very obvious reasons, that is justified, there are parts of the sector, particularly those holiday lets that are under an occupancy restriction, which perhaps could be included.
Well, responding, the Housing Minister perhaps predictably joked that he didn't want to bring the Chancellor's anger down on his head by preempting what she might say next Wednesday. Of course, when we have a similar conversation at exactly the same time in exactly a week's time, it'll all be done and dusted.
Martin Oates, thanks very much. I'm sure we'll be chatting again over the next couple of days. Next tonight, an Avon and Somerset police inspector has appeared in court today charged with a dozen child sex offences. Thomas Kettleborough of Weston-super-Mare appeared before Exeter Magistrates Court but didn't enter a plea. The 35-year-old, who's been suspended since last summer, will appear at Exeter Crown Court next month. The government today launched what it says is the biggest review of the water industry since privatisation. South West MPs told the Environment Secretary that urgent action is needed to stop sewage flooding into the streets of our region's towns.
In Truro and Falmouth, my constituency, as well as sewage in our bathing waters this week, we've had sewage on the streets in Penryn. The party opposite cut funding to the regulator back in 2015. Could the Secretary of State please confirm that the role of the regulator will be completely reset by this review?
I don't think the residents of Kingsbridge are going to be encouraged by a review and a commission, because that's not going to solve the problems they're going to face this winter. So will the Minister meet with me to discuss this particularly difficult and chronic problem in Kingsbridge?
Plans for a controversial landfill site in the Devon countryside have been thrown out. Developers wanted permission to leave in place material that had been illegally dumped at the site near Tiverton, as well as to bring in thousands of tonnes of waste over the next 8 years. Devon County Council unanimously rejected the proposals. Next tonight, to a man from Devon running to recovery, who is also helping others. Connor Shannon was addicted to the drug spice as a teenager. He hit rock bottom, but has turned his life around. He's become a marathon runner and triathlete and is coaching people in similar situations to go from addict to athlete.
So I was struggling with problems, as a lot of young people do. Had problems with my family and growing up, and that sort of led on to when I was 15, I was at that experimental age. And I'm not sure if you're aware that the legal high shops came out at the time. And as I say, I was at that experimental age and it completely ruined me. I started taking these spice, synthetic cannabis. And I started doing that almost all the time. Became addicted to it and it completely ruined my life.
Connor was just 15 when he started taking spice, and the next 10 years were dominated by drug abuse, until he saw a video online that changed his life.
I was just on YouTube one day, come across some people on YouTube doing some running videos, and I thought, what have I got to lose? I'm gonna try and go for a run. I was at rock bottom basically, and I as I said, nothing else to lose. I didn't even have any running trainers. Just found some old shoes that I had, found out about parkrun, went out for a run, absolutely loved it. The wind was in my face, I could feel the rain on my skin, and that was the steps of, you know, positivity for me.
Connor set up Addicts to Athletes, a non-profit organisation that helps people caught in a cycle of substance misuse to get active and healthy.
40 clients locally now, and we take them out on group runs. We've got a Wednesday group run going out, we've got hiking groups, a cycling leader as well. So yeah, 40 local clients, and a big part of this Addicts to Athletes is the online community as well. So we've got an online group, over 60 clients on that. And it's, you know, when people are suffering with addiction, a lot of people experience loneliness and isolation, and actually having that online community wherever you are based, you know, it's great for people to know that there's other people, you know, in that situation.
Army veteran Miles Weston was addicted to alcohol, but is now one of the group leaders.
Fitness and exercise was a big part of my recovery. When I'm not doing fitness, I go to a bad place, you know. And it maintains my mental health. You feel good about yourself, and that's what I'd like to spread to other people and show them the benefits.
The goal is to keep expanding this. We want people in different areas, leaders in different areas that have got lived experience to show that, you know, it is possible to change and to recover. So yeah, the goal is to have these run and cycle leaders in different cities around the UK, and just to keep expanding this. You know, Addicts to Athletes, it started in Devon, in North Devon, in Barnstable, but the goal is to make this wider.
Miles Davis, BBC Spotlight, Barnstable.
And if you've been affected by addiction, details of help are available at bbc.co.uk/action line, or you can call for free at any time to hear recorded information on 08000 155 947. Now, it's been confirmed a Grade 2 listed church in Cornwall is going to be demolished for safety reasons. St Paul's in Truro has been shut to the public since 2008 over concerns the tower is unsound. Seb Noble reports.
St Paul's Church has stood at the gateway to Truro since the Victorians. This building's been living on a prayer, but not for much longer.
Well, this church dates back to the 1840s, but there hasn't been a service held here for more than 15 years now. That's because there are massive structural issues with concerns that the tower could be at risk of collapsing. The estimated repair bills thought to run into the millions of pounds, which is why church bosses have been forced into taking this decision.
There are two structural problems with the church. One is subsidence, and the other is, it's called the delamination of the polyphant stone in the tower. The stonework problem is the problem where there's no known technical solution. So it's not simply not willing to spend the money or not being bothered about it. There's just no known solution. And so because we can't solve that, we can't make the tower safe.
A thriving congregation used to pack these pews before they were forced to leave. A public consultation will now take place over the plans to demolish it, a chance for people to have their say and mourn.
We want to hear from people, we want to give them the space, because some people will have some grief about that process. We recognise there'll be a lot of that, as well as the local community, and maybe the neighbours will have opinions about it as well. But I think really this is a time for us to say we have tried, we've really, really tried to keep this church open and look after it, but it's just not the right thing for this building.
The plans will need Cornwall Council's permission because of its Grade 2 listing. Demolition's unlikely to happen until late 2025 at the earliest. After years of uncertainty over its future, though, for this historic church, the bell could finally be tolling. Seb Noble, BBC Spotlight, Truro.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening. The first time in our new home. Sharon, thank you for noticing. We'll still have plenty to show you this evening, including a glimpse of spectacular autumn colours.
Yes, with our new bigger screens and new technology, we're able to showcase more of your Weather Watcher pictures. We can't, though, improve the weather, I'm afraid. I'll have all the weather detail in a few minutes.
Plans for a state-of-the-art training base at Portland bringing together sailors, coaches and support staff in one location have been approved. The new Performance and Innovation Centre will be built within the grounds of the National Sailing Academy. There had been some opposition over the reduction in space for storing boats and visitor parking, but there was also widespread support from top-class sailors who practice in and around Portland Harbour. On to sports, and tonight Plymouth Argyle head to Millwall looking to pick up their first away win of the season. Meanwhile, Exeter City's 5-game unbeaten run came to an end yesterday following a 2-1 home defeat to Reading. The visitors were ahead inside just 60 seconds and soon doubled their lead later in the half. City did pull a goal back in the second half but couldn't find an equaliser and are now 6th in the table. Now, if you're a Corrie fan, you'll know my next guest. Emerus Cooper was born and brought up in Devon, but at the age of 23, his acting career took him off to the bright lights of Los Angeles in America. Well, now, though, he's been tempted back to the UK after landing a role in the legendary ITV soap Coronation Street. Thank you for joining us. How did you find time to come in?
I'm delighted to be here on this new set.
Oh, do you like it?
I feel honoured. Yes.
Well, great to have you here. What's it like being on Coronation Street?
It's a dream come true. I've loved every minute. It's honestly been so fun. It's like a big family, lots of banter, the northern spirit, yeah.
And it's always good to play a juicy character. You've got quite a good role here, haven't you? Tell us about it.
Well, I play Rowan Cunliffe, who's high up at the Institute, which is a cult-like organisation disguised as a well-being and self-development programme. And I've been doing a little bit of brainwashing and conning and being very mischievous. It's a lot of fun.
The interesting thing about this isn't just, I mean, you're doing so well, but you're actually drawing from personal experience. Tell us about that and your experience of that cult regime.
Well, yeah, basically 22 years ago, my parents unknowingly got into an organisation. It was a fitness and well-being programme, and the more they got in, they had some red flags and realised it was something more sinister. Luckily, they got out relatively unscathed. But I have consulted with my father about the role, as he has, you know, encountered some Rowans in his time. And just the research in playing this character, there's a lot more cults than we realise in the UK, over 2,000. So they're all over the place, and it's very serious.
I mean, so what's it like playing that role then? Is it bittersweet in a way, or are you pleased that you're informing people about these sorts of things?
Well, raising awareness due to how I've seen it affect my family has made me feel great, and it's been very healing and insightful, and opened up to discussions with my family about what happened. There was questions, and now we've gotten closer, and I really appreciate this role. I'm so grateful to it, and I've had responses from people that have managed to escape cults saying it's very truthful and accurate, so it feels...
That's really good. I understand your dad's having coronation parties as well, isn't he?
He's had a few viewing parties, yeah, it's lovely.
So tell us, aside from Coronation Street, you're really busy. You've got a new film coming out before Halloween, and you're also in Panto, which must be fantastic fun.
Oh, no, I'm not. I've done that before.
Somebody tell me you are.
So, yeah, I've got a horror film that just came out on Friday called Nosferatu. It's a really great remake of the original Dracula movie. It's a reimagining. It's got all the jumps, and there's I might get bitten. I play Thomas Hutter, the kind of hero. That's out just in time for Halloween. And I just started rehearsals for pantomime, so I'm playing Prince Charming.
Oh, so not a villain this time?
No, it's a bit of a stretch. So I'm hopefully going to bring some charm and bring out my dance shoes and sing some songs.
Because, I mean, you're a trained dancer anyway, aren't you? So you're used to all that sort of stuff.
I can't wait to get back on stage.
Well, come back and tell us about it again. Is it nice to be back in Devon?
It's really nice. I've spent the day with my dad. I got to see my mum. She's at the Three Corners nursing home in Brixham. I think she might be watching, hopefully.
Oh, brilliant.
But I always love coming home.
Well, thank you so much for coming into our new studio, our first guest.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Now, a special ceremony took place today in Cornwall to mark the 125th anniversary of the death of a forgotten national hero. Major General Sir William Penn Simmons was the highest-ranking soldier to be killed in the Boer War. As Kevin Hay reports, today's service was organised after a campaign led by a local historian.
They came to remember the life and sacrifice of Sir William Penn Simmons in a ceremony at the monument in Saltash, which was dedicated to him over a century ago. In 1899, the British Army were in a bitter conflict for the control of South Africa. Their enemy were the Boers, the descendants of Dutch, French and German farmers. Sir William was mortally wounded in battle. News of his death soon reached Parliament.
everyone in the House of Commons took off their hat. Winston Churchill gave a very passionate eulogy, and it was said that not only did Parliament, but the whole nation grieved, and he was in fact the first general officer to be killed in the Boer War.
As a keen local historian, it was Barry who organised today's event to mark the 125th anniversary of Sir William's death. Sir William's great-great-nephew still lives in the family home near Saltash. He says his ancestor would have been surprised by the attention.
He was a very quiet man. In fact, his nickname was Quiet Simmons. So he would probably be slightly bemused that so much fuss was being made, or his memory was still alive 125 years after he was mortally wounded. But I think he would be generally rather pleased.
Britain's eventual victory in South Africa has long been overshadowed by the brutal tactics used against civilians, but that was after Sir William's death. Today, Saltash remembered its fallen son, whose final words were, "Tell everyone I died facing the enemy." Kevin Hay, BBC Spotlight, Saltash.
Well, now to one of nature's most beautiful transitions, when the trees turn from green to gold as autumn sets in. But some believe the seasonal display this year could be particularly vivid. Experts say the extremely wet spring may have laid the foundations for a stunning autumn. Our reporter John Danks has been to Lanhydrock in Cornwall to take a look.
So Ollie, when do you start to see these distinctive autumn colours coming through in the garden?
So for here about September, I'd say. So I remember coming in one morning and seeing the liquid amber starting to turn from green to red.
Autumn has taken root here at Lanhydrock. Head gardener Ollie leads me around a blaze of reds, golds and yellows.
So at the moment we've got some really dramatic displays in the garden. So we've got the reds of the liquid amber, which is just right behind me. Again, similarly with some of our acers, the Acer palmatums in those reddy maroon colours. Our more native trees going over, such as the oaks, again gets that nice autumnal glow to them as well. So it's really, especially in the last few weeks, it's really come on here.
We're definitely seeing lots of people coming to see our autumn colour. Our garden is really known for its spring flowers, but it's really clear how beautiful it is all year round.
And part of the reason for this flashy foliage could be down to the soggy spring. According to the Met Office, this March was one of the wettest on record.
With those milder weathers, it's great because we have got the increased rainfall, which means that the trees are still in full leaf and then they're slowly turning to that autumn colour. But with the increased storms that we've had, especially last year when we had, I think, the most storms since records began, we're hoping we don't get the same repeat of that this year.
Today has actually been a very lovely day, so we've come to have a look at the colour here and just see the changes and grabbing that bit of nice weather before the rain probably comes tomorrow.
Well, the colour of some of these trees here is truly spectacular, particularly when the sun is shining. And the joy we receive from them today is perhaps some small consolation for all that wet weather we endured earlier in the year. John Danks, BBC Spotlight at Lanhydrock.
Absolutely love this time of the year, particularly when you have a little bit of sunshine down.
Absolutely, and this is great, isn't it? These new screens mean that I can show 2 Weather Watcher pictures at the same time. And they're good evening. So keep your Weather Watcher pictures coming in to us and we'll try and show them on the walls here. But we can see today's weather in a nutshell. Started off quite cloudy, quite misty for some, and then the end to the day was a lot brighter, with a lot more in the way of sunshine around. But you can see how localised the flood was, the fog was this morning. This is Plymouth, this is the Peveril area, but go a little bit further towards the city centre and up across the Tamar, and some really thick fog there. But for tomorrow morning, with a bit more of a breeze, we shouldn't see the issues with the fog that we did this morning. Cloudier day overall than today, though. And some sunny spells are likely to get through that cloud before a band of rain moves in later overnight to take us into Friday. And we will see the winds strengthening further as we go through tomorrow, freshening and becoming strong. The high pressure we've had today, very short-lived, it's moving away to the east now. and around it drawing up some fairly brisk southerly winds. It will bring some mild air for tomorrow, but a breezier day than today. And you'll notice this weather front here developing around that, an area of low pressure for Friday. That will strengthen the winds further and bring some heavy showers or outbreaks for rain for a time too. It does look like now that low pressure will drift away southwards for the weekend. Still a bit of uncertainty on that, but if it should happen, then it should be largely drier than we were forecasting initially for the weekend. A few showers around perhaps, but some bright spells too with some sunshine and the winds falling lighter again before high pressure builds into next week. You can see we had a few showers earlier, but now largely clear skies across the country. And earlier today, our cameraman Chris was out and about in the Tean Valley, catching more of those autumn colours. Still quite a lot of leaves on the trees for now, for the end of October at least. It's been fairly mild up to now, but with more wind over the next few days, we'd like to see more of those leaves falling off. Hello, Robin. And then no real risk of any frost as we go into the early part of November either. But for the forecast then for the coming days, we've got a largely clear sky overnight tonight, at least at first. The temperatures, particularly further east, falling into single figures before we see more cloud after midnight starting to move in from the west and thickening up. Still largely dry, but the cloud might be thick enough for the odd spot of drizzle here and there into tomorrow morning. And the winds picking up from the south as well. So tomorrow, a breezy start, cloudier start for most than we had today. Again, a bit of patchy drizzle, light rain here and there, but equally some bright, some sunny spells managing to get through that cloud at times. And temperatures tomorrow, despite the cloud and the strengthening winds, will be actually a little bit higher, if anything, 17, perhaps 18 Celsius up towards Barnstaple. For the Isles of Scilly tomorrow, mostly cloudy, patchy outbreaks of rain and drizzle with some rain later and some strong winds. Our outlook then, looking further ahead, wet and windy for a time on Friday, brightening up later though, and then a bit mixed through the weekend, a few showers, but a lot of dry weather too. Have a good evening. I'll see you again directly. Victoria.
Something to look forward to. Thank you, Dan. And that's all from the Spotlight team this evening. Janine Jansen will bring you the late news at 10:30. Thank you for joining us. From all of us this evening, good night.
Good night.